The hunt for El Chapo, bro.
This is the most heavily guarded prison in Mexico. Tall mesh fences, huge watchtowers. The area is a no-fly zone. This prison is considered to be unescapable. Yet today, someone will escape. This someone happens to be the world's most powerful drug lord, El Chapo. He won't use any violence, nor will he climb over the fence. All he will do is walk into his shower and disappear. This is the story of how El Chapo became one of the most successful drug dealers in the history of mankind, how he was hunted by authorities for decades, and how he escaped them over and over again. And it's the story of how an interview with a Hollywood actor and a failing car engine finally brought him down.
What, bro? An interview with Sean Penn brought his down. Are you fucking kidding me? The Man from the Mountain, 1957.
Joaquin Archivado Guzman Loera was born on April 4th, 1957,
Where the fuck did the name El Chapo come from?
in a poor family in a poor neighborhood, the village La Tuna in Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains.
What does El Chapo even mean, bro? I never even looked that up. The name El Chapo is a whatever Mexican Spanish slang term that translates to shorty in English. It is derived from the word chaparro, a common descriptor used throughout Mexican for a short person. Shorty! Imagine calling El Chapo shorty.
Boys here don't grow up wishing to be astronauts, firefighters, or doctors. They want to become drug traffickers. It's a way to make money, and money is...
Well, I feel like when you're older, when you're a kid, I don't think you're gonna be growing up being like, oh, I want to be a drug dealer. No, I feel like kids are all naturally the same, just like astronauts or like, I don't know, what do kids even want to be anymore? I feel like kids nowadays just want to be like online. I feel like everybody just wants to be like a YouTuber or like streamer or something now. I don't even know, what do kids like want to be now? Obviously, like dreams change the more you get older. I feel like if you grew up in this type of area and you're like a teenager and you see these people like millionaires, billionaires and stuff like that, yeah, you want to be that.
the way out. People will call Guzman El Chapo because of his height. He doesn't grow taller than 1.67 meters. El Chapo drops out of school early. He doesn't even finish elementary school. Instead, he spends his time working on the marijuana and poppy fields.
You think he kind of had like a Napoleon complex a little bit? Being short?
A family tradition. From a young age, El Chapo is extremely ambitious. He makes friends with big names in the local drug scene, determined to rise through the ranks of Mexican organized crime. First, he becomes a so-called problem solver. Whenever a truckload of drug shipment misses schedule, El Chapo eliminates the person responsible. His uncompromising attitude makes him trustworthy, and he grows close to the kingpin of the Guadalajara cartel. When the boss is arrested, El Chapo keeps the business running, ultimately setting up his own organization with other traffickers, the Sinaloa cartel. He organizes planes, trucks,
What does that say? Technically, cartel existed before, but they created its modern version. So El Chapo created the modern version of the cartel.
He organizes planes, trucks, and rail cars to deliver cocaine and heroin into the United States. And he even builds border-crossing tunnels, a skill that will come in handy many years later. In those early years, one incident really puts El Chapo on the map. This is Juan Jesus Posadas. He's the Archbishop of Guadalajara and a cardinal, one of the highest ranks in the church.
Oh, is this like an assassination?
Posadas is a popular man. He advocates for the poor and publicly condemns drug trade. Right now, he is on his way to the airport to meet an ambassador of the Vatican. At the same time, El Chapo and his bodyguards pull into the parking lot. They are here to catch a flight to the beach resort town of Puerto Vallarta, one of El Chapo's favorite places to party. We don't know exactly what happened in this parking lot next. One thing we know for sure, though, the cardinal will not survive. This
Ooh, that's a high profile. High profile.
is the official version. These brothers run a drug trafficking operation out of Tijuana. They are at war with El Chapo and his cartel. They fight over drug running territory, and somehow they get wind that El Chapo is going to be at the airport that day. So one of the brothers and a group of gunmen rush there to ambush him. When they spot him and his bodyguards, they step out of their cars and open fire. El Chapo and his men run toward the terminal building, taking cover behind cars in the lot. It's raining bullets, but somehow they manage to escape without getting hit. The failed assassination leaves 7 people dead, among them the Cardinal. This is the version of events that authorities will publicly report. Posadas was caught in the crossfire. Wrong time, wrong place. But there are doubts about this story. His death doesn't appear like a coincidence. Forensic experts will later say it's likely that the gunman killed the Cardinal deliberately. He was shot 14 times from close range. Later, the officials
a little less likely to get caught in some crossfire. Seems like a little too organized.
suggest that the gunman had mistaken the cars. El Chapo regularly drives a white Mercury Grand Marquis, the same model Posadas sat in that day. The gunman thought it's El Chapo's car and opened fire. But the Cardinal wore his robe when he was shot. He was not dressed at all like a drug lord. If the gunman killed...
Yeah, I don't think you're confusing the two. Maybe. Fuck, maybe you were just looking for a car and you gunned it down, but it was close range and stuff.
Him at a close range, how could they have confused him with El Chapo? Years later, the successor of Posadas will make a serious accusation. He claims the murder of the Cardinal was a crime of the state.
Se trató de un crimen de Estado, perpetrado por la Policía Judicial Federal, es decir, por la Policía de la PGR.
He believes the police
I think the cartel had the government kill his ass because he was something with drugs, advocate for not using drugs or whatever. He was against drugs, whatever he was. The cartel probably hired the government to kill him. That's the theory.
carried out the killing for the Mexican government. Posadas had accused government officials of having ties to these cartels. Up to this day, it remains a mystery. What really happened in 1993 at Guadalajara Airport? This is El Chapo's wife, his sons, and one of his closest partners. Just 2 months ago, El Chapo was captured and brought to Altiplano Maximum Security Prison. Now the group is working on a plan to get him out. They begin by acquiring an old property 1 kilometer away from the prison. Next, they buy an old warehouse nearby. Here they store weapons in an armored pickup truck. Then they hire workers for one very specific job, digging a sophisticated tunnel.
Yo, that's a fucking tunnel. Oh my god, a kilometer? How far is a kilometer, bro? How far is a kilometer compared to a mile? A little over half a mile, 0.6 miles. That's a lot of tunnel, bro. That is a lot of tunnel. Wow. How shouldn't they keep track of like who's buying properties next to a prison? Especially if they bought 2 recently. You know, wouldn't that flag something? Wouldn't that be like a flag? But then again, they pay people off. Who cares?
Back in 1993, after the shootout at Guadalajara Airport, the Mexican government placed a bounty on El Chapo. It took just 2 weeks until he was found and arrested. He denies being responsible for the death of the Cardinal. He insists that he was the supposed target of the shootout. Ultimately, the authorities believe him. They don't charge him for homicide, just for drug trafficking. He is sentenced to 20 years in a Mexican prison, but he continues to run the Sinaloa cartel from behind bars. Through his lawyers, he passes orders to his closest allies. He doesn't need to be in the room to pull strings. His empire runs on whispered instructions and tightly coordinated moves. Sometimes real power is remote. In 2001, El Chapo has enough of life in prison. Also, the Mexican Supreme Court just approved a law that makes it easier to extradite criminals like him to the US.
Oh.
Time to get out.
Oh, so he wants out.
The official version of his first prison escape is spectacular. He supposedly bribes a guard who helps him climb into a laundry cart. The guard then pushes the cart out of the cell, down the hallways, and through an unguarded gate to the parking lot. El Chapo jumps out and climbs into the trunk of a car. The guard gets in and drives to the outer prison gate. After a quick search, the car is waved through. Nobody checks the trunk. But again, that's just the official story. Several authors and journalists don't buy it. One argues that the prison's checkpoints
So he was just walked out. His ass was just walked out. Oh my god.
were equipped with heat and motion sensors, capable of detecting any living creature, even a cat. That means the alarms would have gone off. Instead, the journalists suggest that El Chapo may have left the prison dressed in a police uniform, escorted by other corrupt officers. One way or another, systemic corruption likely played a role, and El Chapo put his newly won freedom to
Yeah, no matter what, we all know somebody got paid off. A lot of people got paid off at this.
use.
There's no way you just don't just leave a prison like that. Like he just walked the fuck out. He just walked out, pretty much. Everybody got paid off.
In the following years, the Mexican cartel landscape changes dramatically. In 2002, the leader of the Tijuana cartel is killed in a shootout with police. One of the brothers who had supposedly tried to assassinate El Chapo at the airport. A year later, the leader of the Gulf cartel is arrested. Two major cartels are now without leadership. El Chapo sees an opportunity. He pushes into Tijuana and Gulf territory, triggering brutal fighting. Nuevo Laredo, an area along the US-Mexican border, practically turns into a war zone. Former forces of the Mexican army begin working for El Chapo. They clash with what's left of the Gulf cartel, whose core fighters were partly trained by the US. Early on, the violence results in more than 1,000 deaths, many of them civilians. And that's only the beginning. In 2006, Felipe Calderón becomes Mexico's new president. Determined to crack down on organized crime, he declares war on the cartels and deploys the military. The violence escalates dramatically. Between 2007 and 2014, over 160,000 people died in the course of the war on drugs in
Between 2007 and 2016?
Mexico.
100.
In these years of bloodshed, El Chapo rises. He becomes the world's most wanted criminal, transforming the Sinaloa cartel into one of the most powerful criminal organizations in history. It becomes the top supplier of drugs to the United States: cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl.
I can see, obviously, cocaine, heroin, and I would think meth would just be made wherever. And even heroin, too, at this point. But I could definitely still see cocaine and fent. But I feel like these two kind of just get made wherever.
El Chapo's cartel operates in 50 countries and generates billions of dollars in profits each year. In turn, El Chapo becomes
I didn't know he was global like that. Wow.
and generates billions of dollars in profits each year.
Everywhere, bro. I didn't know that shit was global. I thought it was just kind of like the Americas. I didn't know he was fucking distributing across the globe.
In turn, El Chapo becomes extremely wealthy, eventually making Forbes' list of the world's billionaires.
How do you make the Forbes list if you're a drug dealer? At a glance, drug trafficker, Sinaloa cartel, age 55, source of wealth, drug trafficking, self-made. How do you get on the Forbes list for selling drugs, bro? What?
No wonder it's hard to keep him locked up.
Like they were just throwing his ass in there. He's a billionaire. Fuck it. He's made a lot of money. They'll throw his ass on there.
El Chapo's rescue commando needs to know the exact location of his prison cell, so they smuggle a GPS watch into his prison cell,
Oh, so that's how they knew the exact location. Okay.
disguised as a food item.
How'd they know the exact location of the where he like turned that corner?
Now the workers know in what direction they need to dig.
Unless he just had that.
Over the span of a
Right there.
year, they dig a sophisticated tunnel,
Like a
a
year?
carefully planned complex construction costing approximately $5 million to make.
Oh, $5 million though. Like when you're a billionaire, who gives a fuck? You know, at that point, it's just kind of like.
The tunnel is 1.5 kilometers long and 1.70 meters high. It is reinforced by a wooden frame. There are lights and
Yeah.
even a ventilation system. Digging a tunnel creates a lot of dirt, so the workers build a rail system with a motorcycle adapted to it to move the dirt out of the tunnel. The construction is also supposed to function as an escape vehicle later on. But how did El Chapo end up in El
crazy.
Altiplano in the first place? Andrew Hogan is an agent with the Drug Enforcement Agency. He wants to take down the most powerful drug lord on Earth, perhaps in history. Currently, he's looking for allies, but he soon discovers somehow there is no task force, no team, not even a single federal agent assigned to the job of bringing El Chapo to justice.
Oh, so he's just like, one-man army, this, no problem. Only the world's most notorious fucking cartel leader in the world, you know, just like, one-man this shit, no problem.
So he takes a Spanish class and prepares to move to Mexico.
Oh, he took a Spanish class.
Meanwhile, one of Andrew's colleagues in the US manages to get the pin to El Chapo's BlackBerry, thanks to someone in his inner circle. He tracks down his phone to the holiday resort Cabo San Lucas. The colleague immediately calls Andrew. They're
Oh, you know, so many people died for that. Oh my God.
excited, and so they pass the information to the officials in Mexico. The DEA and Mexican police quickly head down to the place where El Chapo is supposedly hiding, but he's nowhere to be found. Next, they narrow down El Chapo's phone signal to one of 3 mansions near the resort Cabo San Lucas. This time, it's a hit. He's there. But before the forces arrive, El Chapo just escapes through the back door. Somehow he makes it to an airstrip without being caught and is flown to safety.
Yeah, I feel like when you're hunted like that, you got every option covered. You know, if somebody comes in, you already know your escape route and everything else.
El Chapo always seems to be one step ahead. He constantly changes his SIM cards and phones and simply outsmarts the authorities. One DEA agent supposedly said the Mexicans couldn't catch El Chapo if he was standing at the fucking Starbucks across the street from the embassy. But Andrew Hogan doesn't give up. In May 2012, he moves to Mexico City with his family and takes over the Sinaloa case. In the months that follow, he and his team begin intercepting members of El Chapo's inner circle. Bit by bit, they uncovered the cartel's complex communication system, how often numbers are changed, possible code names, and GPS locations. Slowly, a picture begins to emerge. One day, El Chapo seemingly wants to meet an underling in person, and he sends one of his chauffeurs to pick him up. Hogan tracks his phone. The chauffeur finally arrives at a place in Culiacan. The signal leads to a group of 5 houses. Hogan organizes a capture operation with dozens of Mexican Marines, helicopters, and trucks, and he joins the mission himself. They surround the property and storm inside. But once again, El Chapo is gone. Instead, they find a strangely placed bathtub covering the entrance to a tunnel that leads into the sewers of Culiacan.
The motherfucker had a tunnel underneath his bathtub. Wow.
But this time, the Marines managed to stay on El Chapo's tail. 3 days later, they find out that one of his men had driven him to the coastal town of Mazatlan, to a hotel. The Marines enter the 4th floor of the hotel. They storm into room 401, heading straight for the bedroom.
Ooh, I feel like it's
El
trapped in a
Chapo
hotel.
is with his family. He barricades himself in the bathroom with an assault rifle. His wife pleads with the soldiers not to harm their daughters. Shortly after El Chapo surrenders, they got him. Andrew Hogan's job is done now. He caught the most wanted man on the planet, and he worries
Shit, he did it just with a Spanish class, man.
for the safety of his family, who moved to Mexico with him. So they board a plane back to the US. Meanwhile, El Chapo goes to Altiplano. The US is pushing hard for his extradition. This would likely be his doom, the end of his reign. Time for another tunnel.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go to America. I feel like America's prisons are just like the kind of like max security in a way. I feel like there's definitely some worse prisons in the world, but I feel like America overall has like probably the most security, you know.
The rescue team and the workers manage to locate the exact spot of El Chapo's cell shower. They build a 10-meter vertical passageway that connects the tunnels to the
10
cell,
meters?
including a ladder.
Oh, okay, so they were 30 feet underground. So I mean, it'd be maybe you wouldn't hear that, I guess.
All this digging and drilling creates a lot of noise.
Oh,
Several inmates are complaining, but the guards ignore them. El Chapo's rescue team
yeah, they were paid off.
manages to complete the 5 million tunnel directly into his prison cell without anyone interfering. All that's left is breaking through the cell floor, and thus comes the day. El Chapo sits on his bed. A surveillance camera monitors him closely. The camera also records audio. You can hear television. The volume is turned up. But you also hear loud banging noises. Probably someone is breaking through the cell floor. Next, El Chapo begins to pace up and down in his cell. After some time, he walks to his shower stall, bends over, and goes back to his bed. He removes his shoes, sits for a second. Then he walks behind the shower wall and simply disappears.
Gone, bro.
He squeezes through the hole in the ground. It's just 50 by 50 centimeters wide. 1 meter below, he finds footing on a ladder. He climbs down 10 meters into the ground until he reaches the tunnel. Someone is already waiting for him, likely his wife's brother. The rescuer sits on the motorcycle and
Is this the actual tunnel? Oh my God. Yo, I feel like that. You would need some explosives to get through that. Yo, so many people have gotten paid off. Oh my God. There's no way that you could do this without almost everybody just being paid.
rails. El Chapo climbs on behind him. Together they make the 1.5-kilometer ride to the other end of the tunnel. When they arrive, El Chapo and his companion climb up a small ladder through the exit shaft. They end up in an unfinished house, covered with construction material. An ATV is parked outside. They drive a short distance to a warehouse and switch to an SUV. Then they drive for 2 hours, until they arrive at an airstrip. A plane is already waiting. They board it and fly to Sinaloa.
Just like that, bro, he's gone again. Again.
2 months later, one of El Chapo's sons posts a tweet. "I'm doing fine here. You already know with whom." Attached is a photo, presumably with his father. The tweet is tagged with a location, Costa Rica.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me this is how El Chapo actually got caught, bro. I'd be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed.
Let's back up for a second. Some things about this spectacular escape just don't add up.
Yeah, man.
There's video footage of guards watching their screens as El Chapo disappears, yet it takes them 20 minutes to check his cell. They even wait a few more minutes before they finally enter and check the escape hole. Also, it seems unlikely that building such a tunnel truly went unnoticed. After all, inmates actively complained about the drilling noise. A large majority of Mexicans believe the escape was an inside job. Shortly after,
Yeah, man, you gotta fire everyone at that point. You gotta fire everybody. You're like, I don't even know who's gotten paid or not, but you're all fired. Redo the whole prison system. You're all fired. That's it. Done.
El Chapo's second prison escape, the prison's warden and 2 other officials were fired.
Only 4? Okay, the warden got fired, yeah.
Next, 4 Mexican officials were charged. 2 were members of Mexico's Secret Service, based at the prison. The other 2 were guards
a lot
who
of
sat
people
in the
got fired.
control room, monitoring El Chapo's cell. The accusation
I feel like they should be more imprisoned than fired, probably, but I guess you can't really prove anything unless you find the money.
is that they bought El Chapo valuable time by not raising the alarm once the drug lord was gone. And El Chapo, he again becomes one of the most wanted criminals on Earth. The pressure to finally bring him to justice is higher than ever. The hunt is on. Then El Chapo makes a crazy move. He knows he's considered a legend in Mexico, and he wants even more fame. A movie about his life on the big screen. Sean Penn is already involved in a production about him, along with Mexican actress Kate del Castillo. Castillo manages to contact El Chapo and his associates. Finally, El Chapo agrees.
How? How does an actress just contact the head of a cartel? How do you do that? How the fuck? She just contacts him out of the blue. Obviously, he wanted this. He's definitely narcissistic as fuck, right? You're already a billionaire. Why do you need the fame? You're already the most notorious cartel leader ever. And you want even more fame? You're on the run, and some actress reaches out to you for an interview?
Meet her and Sean Penn in person to talk about the movie. Well, technically, he's on the run. This is a photo of the meetup. Sean Penn
took a picture also. Yeah, this dude was such a fucking narcissist. There's no way. He had to have the biggest god complex in the world, bro.
Interviews El Chapo about his career as a drug lord, a story later published by the Rolling Stone. In it, Penn reveals that El Chapo's escape tunnel engineers have been flown to Germany for 3 months of extensive additional training necessary to deal with the low-lying water table beneath the prison.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gripping read. Beneath his smile, there's a doubtlessness to his facial expression. A question comes to mind as I observe his face, both as he speaks as while he listens. What is it that removes all doubt from a man's eyes? Is it power? Admirable clarity?
Power, bro. Power. He has so much money and power. He has so much reach, it's unfathomable.
Or soullessness? But according to government sources, the interview is also a crucial factor for investigators to get closer to El Chapo. Apparently all the while, they're monitoring Penn and Castillo's movements very closely. It's October 9th, 2015. Mexican special forces are closing in on him in the mountains of Sinaloa. After a while, they actually spot him. He's only got 1 bodyguard with him. This is their moment. They take off after them, chasing them through the terrain. As they get nearer, El Chapo falls off a cliff. His bodyguard finds him and carries him to the depths of the forest. The special forces lose sight of them and they escape. A catastrophe.
How? How? The motherfucker fell down a cliff. He's got to be limping or something. How do you lose track of him with the military, bro? You had to have some sort of like thermal or something, right? Right, bro? How do you lose track of him at this point? He fell down a cliff. You know, I get that quote earlier when they said Mexicans can catch him if he was standing outside of a fucking Starbucks. I really understand that now.
Catastrophic failure. But the authorities don't give up the hunt. In January 2016, they get another chance. The Marines manage to locate El Chapo once again in the coastal city of Los Mochis. The clue comes from a taco order placed from a white van. Witnesses say the driver is one of El Chapo's men. The Marines begin to surveil the car. It ultimately leads them to a safe house. A few hours later, the soldiers storm the place. Cartel gunmen try to hold them off. A gunfight breaks out. The Marines eventually push up to the second floor, then the roof. But El Chapo is gone. True to his form, he and one of his gunmen
Houdini, bro. What?
fled through a hidden tunnel. Right now, they are climbing out of a drainage tunnel a short
Outside of a Walmart, man. Outside of a Walmart. Imagine you're just shopping, going about your day. You're leaving. You know, you're just pushing your stroll, your little cart. You know, it's just fucking na 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 na. And next thing you know, El Chapo pops up out of the sewer, and you're like, huh?
distance away, right across from a Walmart. El Chapo and his gunmen need to escape quickly. They steal a car, guns drawn, but after just driving a few blocks, the car breaks down. So they ditch it and lose valuable time. Then they take over another car and
What unfortunate time. What a shitty car to take.
manage to get on the highway, but it's too late. Police finally arrest El Chapo, one of history's most powerful drug lords. He tells the officers, "You are all going to die." 40 of his assassins are supposedly on their way to free him, but he gets handed over to the Marines, and it's over. After a decade of hide and seek, escaping over and over again, in all likelihood protected by systemic corruption, El Chapo has finally been caught. Later that day, the Mexican president tweets, "Mission accomplished. We have him."
Mission accomplished. I mean, I guess. Kind of showed a lot of like incompetence, but I guess mission accomplished, bro.
Soon after, El Chapo was extradited to the United States, the one thing he truly feared.
Ooh.
On July 17, 2019, 3 years after his second escape, he was sentenced to life in Colorado's Supermax prison. That's where he remains locked up to this day. The Sinaloa cartel and other Mexican cartels are as strong as ever, operating as undeterred global organizations. There's so much more to the story that we couldn't cover in this video.
Who runs it now? Who's running it now? That obviously El Chapo's not running it from behind American prison in like Supermax, you know. Sinaloa cartel operates as a decentralized network of factions rather than having a single leader. Its currently command is heavily disputed following massive arrest by U.S. with primarily split between Los Chapitos, the son of Joaquin El Chapo. So his son and the Le Maiza faction. So his son is running it. His son's inherited a massive portion of the cartel's operations.
But apparently, some video journalist obsessed with maps is about to pick it up very soon.
Oh, hi, Fern.
W video, man. I love Fern videos, bro. I love Fern videos. We have him, but for how long? I don't know. He's in a U.S. prison. He's pretty fucked right now. Honestly, I thought El Chapo was dead. I didn't think this motherfucker was still alive.